March 7th, 1876. Alexander Graham Bell receives a patent for an invention he calls the telephone, and everyone else calls the conversation tube. Welcome to The Revisionists. I'm Brian Flynn.
I'm Zach Powers.
And hey, look who's back.
Oh no! I have to say, just right off the bat, this is we're pulling back the kimono for a second.
That's
at the beginning of every episode, we usually have multiple jokes for the opening joke. And one of Brian's was, this may not have been used, about Bloomberg ads. And even by the time this comes out, it may be dated. It's going to be like the fastest dated joke that we've ever had on the show, because if Bloomberg fails on what will to the listeners be last Tuesday, he apparently has no more spending lined up.
Oh, wow.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
If I can just say, millennials who are complaining about Bloomberg ads, do you not know what a fucking ad blocker is, or are you just lazy? Like,
no, not ads. The calls and the text messages is more the thing.
See, I've only gotten calls from India giving me free cruises, so.
Yep, you've been on 43 cruises so far? Is that right?
Yeah.
You are, in terms of our guests, the number one in terms of cruise attendance. By far.
Well, not attendance, but I do I've been told the tickets are in the mail.
Oh, okay. So you're going to spend all the next 3 years, you're going to be on a boat.
Yeah.
All it cost was a bunch of iTunes gift cards.
Yeah.
Tomorrow,
and my blood type.
You're heading out to the Atlantic tomorrow, and we won't see you until 2025 or never.
Yeah. Hey, if anyone wants to give me a free cruise, my social security number, I know you need it. It's 078. I'm not going to go further into my actual
your social. We all know your social. It's 078 cruise. Just type in the letters for cruise.
I had it changed. That's right.
Yeah.
God.
This is a podcast.
If it's cruise me, no.
No, cruise is the right number of. Right?
I think it's too short. It's 9 numbers for the Social Security. I think it's too short, but that's okay.
Well, no, because cruise has 6 letters, right? Because there's an I in there.
Oh, yeah. I was for some reason. Yep. No, you're right. Yeah,
that made my entire English degree worth it.
I do know how to spell cruise, for the record. I just did the math part wrong. Regardless, this is a podcast. You might know that already. If you're listening. If not, welcome.
We gotta start at square one. Jesus.
Podcasts are like a replacement for radio that you can listen to on demand that became popular in the mid-2000s. So,
yeah, and now I can hear you asking, how do I choose a good podcast? Well, first, you've made a mistake in assuming that there is such a thing.
Yeah.
But
there's 99% invisible and the rest.
Yeah. Basically, you have two options. People who are going to tell you about gruesome murders, and then also people ad-libbing comedy that usually doesn't work out. Right now, You've chosen the second that sometimes is the first.
Thank you.
It's 3 goofuses over talking each other, which is my favorite genre of podcast.
Yeah. The goofus genre.
Now, unfortunately, you can only choose white men.
White men who, in this instance, look like 3 stages of the same animorph.
Yeah, it's like that Michael Keaton movie, Multiplicity. Like, each of us is a multiplicity clone of the same person. And none of us are the main guy. We're all...
we're all the 3.
We're all like the fucked up Michael Keaton.
Yeah. We're all the bad parts of his personality, like, in different ways.
You say Birdman?
I did say Birdman, yes. That's how I address that movie because I don't respect it that much.
Yeah, that has... what's the subtitle of that? Like the total ignorance of being alive or something?
Or the unexpected value of ignorance or something like that.
Yeah, what a pretentious fucking subtitle. This is a podcast. What we do on this podcast is we talk about a person or event from history.
This person this week is Nathan Earl, comedian in Denver.
Yes, we did not fully introduce you. We just got...
Oh, yeah,
Sorry, I was looking up Birdman.
Nathan Earl is here. Apologies. We're all over the map tonight.
Yeah, Birdman that's that movie about the Superman clone who gets his powers from the Red Sun and has a group of teens to help him out, one with the robot wings. Old Hanna-Barbera cartoon. I'm not sure how much deeper I need to go into this.
Yeah, there was an Adult Swim show about it.
Several.
Yeah.
Sorry, the actual subtitle is The Birdman or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, which is somehow worse.
Cool. So what you're listening to right now is The Revisionists or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. We have Nathan Earl with us. Denver comedian.
Host of Take Care of Yourself podcast, which I was
you
on
were
a recent episode of.
Yeah, so for the listeners, if you like three people over talking each other, Michael Eisner, co-host of your podcast. Disney CEO Michael Eisner.
Michael Eisner.
So me and the CEO of Disney, we sit down each week. Me and comedian Michael Jeffries, who I assume has been a past guest or future guest here. Each week every other week, we will do local comedians' self-care, which can range from doing the keto diet to flossing to drawing our emotions. And then we talk about the comedian self-care with them in a hour-long interview. And meander around to topics of comedy and self-care and, just general talking about our mental states and how bad they are.
Yeah. And
now you might be saying, Nate,
okay.
Comedians are fairly famous for having terrible self-care. And I would say to you, that's the bit.
It's also worth noting that the mental states, on a scale of 1 to 7, 1 being the worst, are probably never above a 3 or a 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd say 5, 4 or 5.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But are you a comedian though?
Yeah.
You've convinced yourself you're a 4 or 5. You're about a 2 in real life.
We're about a year away from you complaining about your wife into a microphone.
Never would. What do we do on this show, actually? All right. Given that we're 45 minutes in.
All right. So we talk about a person or event from history, and one person gives the sort of official government-sanctioned, sanitized, fucking mainstream media account of that
Illuminati.
person. Yeah, all that shit about that person or event from history. And another...
someone else gets a little Illuminati with it, which is...
Right.
You can't see it, listeners, but I'm making a face. And it is smiling, because that was hilarious.
Another person gives another account that is possibly the real account, but can be as crazy, batshit, bananas, insane as that person wants. It could have Batman.
Unexpected value of ignorance.
It can have weird sex positions. It can... It can literally be the summary of the movie The Invisible Man starring Elizabeth Moth, but the Invisible Man is...
Elizabeth Moth?
Elizabeth Moth. And...
Which is the Mothra version of Elizabeth.
Yeah. But except in this version, the Invisible Man is Dov Stoyevsky. That could be the alternate version. It's whatever. And at the end, we vote on what becomes the true history of this brilliant, blue, spherical, jubilant dying marble we call the Earth.
Jubilant and dying.
Going forward. And that is the premise of this podcast. Last time we talked about Konstantin Tchaikovsky? It's been like 10 days. I've forgotten how to pronounce this Russian-ass name.
Is this the episode you just did with Katie Bowman?
Yes.
It is.
Ah.
The results are not in, so stay tuned. And, as of recording, they're not in. Voting should be closed by now. But stay tuned for those results.
And the winner, Michael Bloomberg. Fuck! God damn it. He's back in it.
He gave us $60,000. This week, however, we're talking about someone who's less of a Leninist, socialist, communist, and more of a actual Nazi? Wernher Von Braun. So we're jumping the political spectrum a little bit. I believe that Brian is doing the actual history.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, and Nate's doing the alternate.
Yes.
So we're going to start with Brian.
All right.
Whenever you're ready.
And listeners, I will say also, in great revisionist tradition, I am sick. Also, I have the immune system of, I guess, an elderly character on The Simpsons.
Hans Moleman.
So if you hear sniffling or I sound especially nasal, that's why.
Also, listeners, me too! So
Perfect.
And hashtag me too. Why not?
That's not what that hashtag means, Zach. Oh, no.
No, hashtag me
I
too.
I found out last week John Hamm was caught giving the sniffles to an underage
Okay.
PA. So
I thought for a second it was going to be a real story about him doing something bad.
oh boy.
Anyway.
Was that clap and edit, Mark?
Maybe.
Keep that in. That's my brand. I'm a truth teller.
Sometimes I add the clap mark as an additional goof. So I will say right off the bat, a lot of this research comes from PBS American Experience, specifically an article written by Michael J. Neufeld, and also Sweet Mother Wikipedia. So we're gonna
The
start
patron
up.
saint of this podcast.
Yep. If you're not going to donate to us, donate to Wikipedia, or like an actual news
Donate.
source.
Yes, join our Patreon and donate to our cause of bringing you weekly nonsense.
Bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly.
I'm not fucking doing weekly. Are you fucking kidding me? So we're going to start off in December of 1968, which is when the Apollo 8 mission successfully orbits the moon. And in the control room watching that is the director of the Marshall Space Flight Center.
I do like this this Pulp Fiction non-chronological approach that you're taking to the life of Wernher Von Braun. We're usually very
like
chronological on this show.
I like how I'm also sort of building suspense to revealing who it is, even though we've said his name already like twice.
I'm waiting for the moment where in the control room is Wernher Von Braun, and he turns to the camera and goes, "Now you may be wondering how I got."
Yeah, record skip. Yep.
Well,
You may be wondering how I got here,
DreamWorks presents.
You may be wondering how I got here. Well, it involves the Holocaust.
Wernher Von Braun, director of Marshall Space Flight Center, one of the most famous public faces of America's space program, responsible for articles in magazines, newspapers, films with Walt Disney.
Responsible for all of those things.
Responsible for.
Lay them at his feet at the gates of heaven. This article you have spawned.
When Anubis weighs his heart against a feather.
You
I forgot you were a devout Egyptian.
Hey, man, look, it's coming back. um, so, not a lot of people knew that 6 weeks prior to that event, Wernher von Braun had been called to testify by a West German court in the trial of 3 SS officers who were guards at the Mittelbrau Dora concentration camp. And von Braun eventually testified and publicly distanced himself from events that took place a long time ago. And I didn't have a transition to this. Sorry, Willow's also trying to climb on the table.
Wait. When called to testify in 1968 about the Holocaust, he said he wasn't involved? He didn't go with the route of saying, actually, yeah, that was something I was fully involved with.
This is actually
weird.
Surprisingly, the basis of the song "It Wasn't Me." But...
originally by the Andrews Sisters.
What is that guy's name? God damn it,
Shaggy.
Yeah. Oh my God, how did I forget Shaggy?
Yeah, I mean, of course, American treasure, Shaggy, the one artist still on everyone's list.
The non-animated Shaggy. The non-animated Shaggy, of course.
The other Shaggy.
Well, no, he has that one lyric, "Nobody here but us chickens."
Yeah.
Wait, what?
That was one of my favorite animated Shaggy lines.
Oh, okay. I've not actually seen Scooby-Doo.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
American classic Scooby-Doo.
You're just a Shag man. You're just a Shag fan.
He's the Shag Man.
Eventually outdone, of course, by Shaggy 2 Dope, the sequel that was more dope. Back to the Holocaust guy.
I wonder why we're riffing continuously.
Well, yeah, we'll need some of that. And this is the closest I think we're going to get to breaking our show's promise of never doing the Holocaust.
That's true. To be fair to Wernher von Braun, he was a Nazi scientist, but his involvement with the Holocaust was, as far as I'm aware, minimal. But yeah,
we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So Wernher von Braun was born in 1912 to a Junker family, which is sort of German aristocracy. His family was very conservative, very involved in nationalist politics.
Very conservative.
Yeah, very conservative. Not quite as conservative as things got.
Well, that's surprising because it eventually joins the Nazis, which were a socialist party.
No, we're not kidding. Listeners, he knows that's wrong. He's just trying to get
I
love
that argument because, like, the idea is like, well, the Nazis said they were socialist, and I'm like, yeah, they lied sometimes.
They're Nazis.
They also said they weren't killing all the Jews.
Yeah. Jesus. His father, Magnus, was a civil servant. His mother, Emmy von Quistorp, was of royal ancestry. And he had brothers, Sigismund, who served as Secretary of State in the Foreign Office in the 1970s even, and his other brother, Magnus, who was a rocket scientist with him, and later an executive at Chrysler.
Fuck, really?
Yeah.
Oh. And we didn't get a rocket-powered car. Good job, Nazis.
We had Nazis in Chrysler and Ford, and we got none of that shit.
Yep. Anyway, when he was a young child, his mother got him a telescope as a gift, which I read that and I was like, okay, yeah, that slaps. Which awoke in him a passion for the stars and astronomy, that he really focused all of his schooling on science and math and bullshit, space stuff.
Yeah, science and math bullshit.
Yeah.
That's why it's called Women in STEM and bullshit.
Look,
Girls who code and other shit.
Like I said, English major. So he went to university in Berlin, and there he joined the Verein für Raumschifffahrt, sorry, the VFR, or Rocketry Society. As opposed to the Russian segments, which I dread speaking, even though I'm probably just as bad with my German pronunciation, I look forward to a lot of it.
Well, your correction was to change the last syllable to fart.
Yes, indeed. F-A-H-R-T.
Okay.
I mean...
Look.
Yeah, it is what it is.
So while he was part of the Rocket Society, he was scouted, essentially, by the German army. And in 1932, the army offers to pay for him to get his doctorate if he focuses his studies on liquid fuel rocket propulsion. So that was in 32. In 33, Hitler comes to power. He had been chancellor already, but the Nazi Party won the election.
Yeah.
At that point. And von Braun was a right-wing nationalist. He never really expressed interest in Nazi ideology or anti-Semitism, but that was also a large part of the German society that allowed the Nazis to take power, was people on the right who didn't necessarily espouse anti-Semitism, but were fine with it.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Sound familiar, America?
Yeah. Cough, cough. So as the Nazi government poured more money into his research, the sort of more enthusiasm he showed for the party. So
that's a coincidence.
Yeah. In 33 and 34, he was part of an SS horseback riding group.
What?
Yes.
SS Equestrians?
Equus. No. Dressage. No.
Do you have any juice? Do you have any juice under the horse?
Clip clop, clip clop, clip clop. They're sugar cube. Sorry. Anyway, which it seems like a more social aspect of the SS that is still part of the SS. In 1937, at age 25, he was serving as the director of the Army Rocketry Center at Peenemünde. And at that point, he is asked formally to join the Nazi Party, which he does because...
Formally. He was asked formally. He got a little note in class that said, do you join the Nazi Party? The note said, do you join the Nazi Party? Yes, no, and then below that, no also means you'll be executed.
Yes.
That's... Maybe.
So, he does, and then in 1940, Heinrich Himmler invites von Braun to become an SS officer. And von Braun was like, give me some time to think about it, and then went and talked to his supervisor to be like, what should I do? And the supervisor was like, look, it's going to be bad for the program if you don't do it. So he does. And by 1943, he's become a major in the SS. And it's one of those things where a lot of the things I came across kept reiterating that, like, a lot of what he did, he seemed to do to keep his research alive.
Gotta learn to fucking ride these horses.
Yeah. Which
and other things.
And I'm like, it's always, like, it's hard to say what someone actually believed based on, like, just, like, based on retrospect.
Mm-hmm.
It seems kind of shaky to me that he is, like, just in it for the research money, but there I don't know, there's evidence of both sides for that. So as part of his work, he develops like an anti-aircraft missile, and like fucking rocket planes. But the thing he's most known for, in his work with the Nazi government, is developing the V2 rocket. Which the V in V2, I can't remember. I didn't write down the full German phrase, but it stands for Vengeance Weapon.
Oh.
Vengeance Weapon 2, which was a full-on Hitler propaganda move. They
did 6 more iterations of that rocket, and it became a juice.
You fucking beat me to the punch, Zach, you ass. I could have had a V8. Anyway.
God damn
I'm
it.
sorry. I could have had the V8.
There we go. So the V2 is one of the first like ballistic missiles, meaning it accelerates under its own power, and then the engine's cut off and it sort of descends. It was designed to also have like a sort of a whistling sound that when it was coming down was meant to sort of demoralize the people it was bombing.
They're gonna die anyway. Yeah. That's such an asshole move.
To quote comedian Jose McCall, I thought that's what the bomb part did.
Yeah. Yes.
At least let them like not be terrified for the last few seconds of their life.
It just plays the blue Dayu as it comes down.
It's literally strategically a bad idea because maybe some people could find cover or hide. It's to be a dick.
Yeah. The 1944 is like when the V2 attacks start in London. And I forget if it was like at a party or something that someone that Von Braun was reported to have said, quote, "The rocket worked perfectly except for landing on the wrong planet." Because a lot of what he kept saying was that like he really wanted to send people into space, not blow shit up. But this led Mort Saul, one of the sort of godfathers of political satire, to falsely attribute a quote to him that was like, I aim for the stars, but sometimes I hit London," which is pretty good. And so the V2 rockets, and this is where von Braun's involvement in the Holocaust comes more to the fore. So just a forewarning on that. The V2 rockets were built using slave labor at the Mittelbrau Dora concentration camp.
Vengeance rocket!
Yeah. Jesus. Specifically at like an slightly off-site factory called Mittelwerks. Which at a minimum, 2,882 people are known to have died building the rocket. There's probably more than that, given that like thousands of people were transported away from the camp, being like sick or on the edge of death. And that's also more people than the number who died in the actual rocket attacks.
That's, roughly 9/11.
Yeah, exactly. Granted, it's like subsumed under the whole umbrella of 12 million people dead as a result of the Holocaust.
Sure.
That individual number alone, it works out to about 6 people dead per rocket.
That's, can I say, not great numbers for a rocket.
My ideal rocket would have 0 people dead per rocket.
Yeah, exactly. Ideal rocket goes up like sunny summer afternoon.
I'm just saying for like the effort that he's putting in, you want at least double digits.
Oh, Jesus. 6 people dead in the manufacture of the rocket.
Oh, okay.
No, yeah, we're talking about the people who made them, not the result.
I may be zoned out for a second.
Yikes. So Von Braun visited the plant on many occasions, toward the plant, and later said he was aware of the conditions and of the treatment of the people kept prisoner, but felt helpless to change the situation, which it's Nazis, so yeah, I understand that, but you're still doing it. Oh
no, stop making me use these slaves.
Yeah, exactly. It seems kind of milquetoast. There are some anecdotes that say that he forwarded reports of attempted sabotage to authorities, which was responsible for certain of the prisoners being executed. That hasn't necessarily been corroborated. There's also an incident where a French physicist was taken prisoner, and Von Braun was like, hey, come build stuff for the Nazis. Because that was his bag. And in order to try to convince the French
physicist... It's a fun time for everyone involved.
I'm fine with it. That was Wernher Von Braun, not me. In order to convince the French physicist to come over, he had prisoners transferred to not come over like, hey, come over, we'll have tapas, but to become a Nazi. He had prisoners transferred to Mittelbrau Dora. The French physicist declined.
Why?
Because principles. Because it is possible. Conflict with Himmler, who was the head of the SS, and public comments about the course of the war that were labeled defeatist. He basically was like, oh, Germany doesn't have a chance, really, in the 1944-45. And his comment said, he was like, we should really be focusing more on space. If I'd been allowed to do space stuff, this would be better.
Yeah, if we were going to the moon instead of, say, bombing London to the ground.
I did write in my notes, defeatist and pro-space.
You know what? I'd say that's also my worldview.
Yeah, me too, honestly. I'm very pro-space. Pretty defeatist, very anti-Holocaust. That's the difference. So all of that, but primarily the conflict with Himmler, it seems, led to von Braun being arrested by the Gestapo in March of 1944. And he was held for 2 weeks. And he's eventually reinstated by Albert Speer and
famously the Nazi who apologized, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the sort of munitions commander.
Yeah,
and Albert Speer and one other person who was sort of working with him at Peenemünde. They intervened with Hitler and be like, he's too important, and Hitler was like, sure, whatever. And
I'm on all sorts of drugs.
Yeah. Famously, he stoned Hitler.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, Hitler definitely took a lot of weird drugs.
Oh, yeah.
He had this standing order not to be awakened before he naturally woke up. And on D-Day, he was not aware of the invasion until hours later because he was asleep until noon or something like that.
That's fucking dope.
I mean, I guess.
I'd everything else aside, I want that in my life.
Hitler, the moral of the story is Hitler's a lot dumber than people think he was.
Yes.
He was not smart. He's just kind of lucky. Yeah, he was more like a Forrest Gump figure who happened to be in the right place at the right time, but also wanted bad shit.
A true German story.
Yeah.
So after being reinstated is when von Braun makes a plan with his staff that they would be transferred further west so that they could surrender to the Americans rather than the Soviets. Because Peenemünde is on an island basically almost right on the border with like or where like the Baltic states are.
I fucking love that.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? We're not going to survive if the Russians fucking capture us.
Yep.
Let's take our chances with the capitalist Americans.
Yeah. So they get transferred west. Well, before they leave, they hide all of their documentation about the V2 rocket in like caves in the area. And so they surrender to the Americans at a town called, I can't read my handwriting, a town in the Alps, on April 29th, 1945. And like, hey, go get our stuff. And the Americans go
Wait,
and
really?
Yeah.
Just, oh no, we're captured. They're forcing the information out of me.
Yeah.
Please don't get my rocket blueprints. They're in that cave over there.
Well,
I've
exactly.
said too much.
Like the Americans flew and snuck von Braun in by train 2 days before the handover of that territory to the Soviets, to like get all the stuff out. And so this is where Operation Paperclip or Project Paperclip, depending on where you're reading it, comes in, which was the American government program which brought Nazi scientists, engineers to the U.S., which was a little over 1,600 Nazi scientists total. There was a similar Soviet program that brought over 2,000 that was, let's call it slightly less voluntary. So von Braun is eventually moved to Fort Bliss in El Paso. The American public doesn't know he's there until 1946, when a colleague, like a newspaper reporter, spoke to a colleague of his and wrote an article with the headline, quote, "German scientist says American cooking tasteless, dislikes rubberized chicken." And that's how people found out Wernher fucking von Braun was in the U.S. Like fucking Albert Einstein was like, hey, this is fucked. And so was John Dingell, the congressman, senior, not his kid. Mainly at Fort Bliss, what his team did was trained others on like rocketry and ballistic missiles. They refurbished V2s that they had captured from Germany and sent them to New Mexico for testing. And then he's there for 5 years, and he's like, in his recollection, he's like, I didn't like it there because they didn't respect me enough, which is anyway. In 1950, the Korean War breaks out, and he and his team are transferred to Huntsville, Alabama, where they work on the Redstone rocket, which is used.
That's not going to work.
It works pretty well. It's used for the first. It's used for the. Oh, God damn it! if this were Minecraft, it's used for the first live tests of U.S. nuclear ballistic missiles. He describes 1945 through 57 as kind of a difficult time for him. Partially because the U.S. was falling behind to the Soviets. Sputnik was launched in that time, which we'll discuss on a later episode, and things like that. And he was just like feeling real out of place, being forcibly removed from his home.
Yeah.
Fancy that. In this time, he begins like a really public push for crewed space flight. He proposes an idea
with a W?
Yes.
Okay.
He proposes an idea for a space station in Collier's magazine. He writes a novel about a Mars mission that was like never published because it was apparently not that good as a novel.
I don't know why it explicitly states no Jews on the space station, but
yeah. He made a series of films about space travel with Walt Disney, famously. Also,
space.
Totally cool guy with cool ideas about stuff. He was a eugenicist. Anyway.
That was my goofy laugh. Anyway.
That was your goofy laugh. Okay. Now I have the fucking After Today from the Goofy movie stuck in my head. Anyway, he even put forth an idea that his space station could be used for orbital warfare. He was like, I'm against this idea, but it could be used this way.
This is the fucking only way people want to spend money on my shit.
Which is, it's the U.S. government and the Cold War, so yeah.
And to be fair, that's how it worked for him before, you know.
Star Wars, baby.
He did seem to, honestly, if he could have had the choice of working purely on space travel, it seems like he would have done that, but...
the mean old Nazis, me.
Oh, mean Nazis. In 1960, he was, again, I'm making fun of Von Braun in this instance.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, the Nazis legitimately pretty mean.
Yes.
Just to be clear, listener, we're not punching down on Nazis.
No, yes, we are. We are.
We are, yeah. No, I'm saying people who are like, the Nazis made me do it. It's like, most of those people, it's like, yeah, they did make you do that.
Yeah.
We're also taking hard moral stances like we would not have our arms spent by.
Yeah, I mean...
I don't know about you, Brian, but I am an inherent coward. I'm also Jewish enough that I would have been killed, though. So
yeah, I mean, it is always, like I said, hard to say what people's true beliefs are versus what they were.
Obviously, yes. It's extremely difficult to see what you would do in a situation like that without being in that situation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But anyway, in 1960, he is transferred to NASA to work on the Mercury project, which used the Redstone rockets. One instance he was involved in was the famous 4-inch flight. Hello. It's not the size of the space flight, it's how you use it.
Man, oh man. We almost got out of there without someone making that joke.
Technical difficulties. Which was a flight of about 4 inches due to a failure because one of the workers on the spaceship filed the end of a power socket too narrow, and it sent a signal to cut off the engines. But he was involved in the Mercury project, which eventually put a man in space. His sort of desire to have a more conservative approach and do more testing and have more like safety fallbacks on the rocket did sort of lead to the Russians getting the first person in space. But it also, in the long run, produced better working rockets. He then was involved in developing the Saturn rockets, which were what the Apollo program used. And since we'll get into that on a later episode, I'm not going to dwell too much on that. He was responsible for establishing the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama, and in helping invent the concept of space camp. So,
no, really?
Yup.
Oh no!
Yep. So that's
Legends of the Hidden Temple. How could you do this to me?
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
First, I find out about JanSports, and now this.
I don't know.
The dark secrets behind JanSports. They're made out of Jans.
Oh my god. If only people knew. He died of cancer in 1977.
I say that like he's...
Yeah, I was gonna... Were you betting on... one of the articles I read did say he died unexpectedly early of cancer, but he was also 65 in 1977, which he's... there's a number of towns with streets named after him. There's craters named after him on the moon and on Mars. And there's all sorts of like science centers and shit named after him. And then there's what was described as a science gymnasium.
Ooh.
In Friedberg, Germany.
Like a gymboree?
No fucking idea. I think it's just a library.
Like a discovery zone?
Yeah, a discovery zone. It's a fucking Spencer's Gifts when they have the fucking lightning ball.
Don't fucking group Discovery Zone and Spencer's Gifts together.
I'll do what I want. So the Science Gymnasium in Freiburg was named for him, and then finally renamed in 2014 due to the efforts of some Holocaust survivors. And that is the story of Wernher Von Braun, Nazi.
Okay, well, that's one version of the story. I think Nate might have a slightly different version.
I sure
do. Theoretically.
Slightly is maybe an understatement. Okay.
First of all, not a Nazi.
First, I want to say that the Holocaust is not...
Wernher Von Braun is also known as Bernie Sanders.
Believed in space travel and Medicare for all. All right, so Wernher von Braun. So most people know that the Nazis were very interested in arcane and magical research.
Indiana Jones certainly knew it.
Yeah. And Hitler was devoutly, not devoutly, but looked into possible arcane solutions to immortality and making his army stronger. Most people don't know that the Nazis were also very interested in scientific research.
Okay.
Including the important discovery of disproving eugenics as a whole. Null hypotheses are valid hypotheses. But the Nazis were extremely interested in the combination of the two, leading into scientific and arcano-based solutions, including runic-empowered steel for their weapons, soldiers enchanted with true sight, and, of course, the soul-powered engine, which, unfortunately, only got about 12 miles to the gallon.
Is Ulfric Stormcloak involved in this in any way?
I don't know who that is, but I want to read whatever novel series it is.
I'm also curious, how many souls are in a gallon?
Oh,
8. It's 8.
Yeah. So
there's 2 souls per quart. That's the thing. That's the conversion.
We all know a soul weighs 7 pounds. So,
okay. So a soul will get you a little over a mile.
Yeah.
Like 1.25 miles.
So the Nazis employed many research science wizards, but none more knowledgeable and heartless than the inventor of the Jew candle, Wernher von Braun. True fact about Wernher. He made candles out of people as a hobby. But we'll peel back time for a second and go to Wernher von Braun as a young man on a trip to Berlin, found a presentation and was utterly fascinated by Gregory Rasputin, who came across Europe attempting to find a successor, bragging, of course, about his deal with the devil to live forever.
Now, you might recall Rasputin from, I think, like, episode 5 of this podcast.
It was later than that. It was in our Russian history series. It was probably around the 20s.
I thought it was like a Halloween episode.
Maybe not. Maybe it was.
Like
yeah.
What's the true history of Rasputin?
Oh, wow, it's so fucking long ago. I don't
It's been 3.5 years. I think he made a deal with
1 episodes ago.
He might have made a deal with Satan or something like that.
I think that actually did happen in it.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Michael Carlick, thanks for that one.
Oh man, I miss that guy. Of course, making a deal with the devil was, of course, a lie. Gregory Rasputin had actually used what would become Crowleyan hermetic magic to increase his charisma to a point to seduce Baphomet into giving him an undying heart and an enormous penis.
I remember now. Rasputin did make some kind of weird deal with the devil to be immortal, and then eventually when he died, he was reincarnated as the Chupacabra and Vladimir Putin.
Yes!
And the Chupacabra traveled with Trotsky to Mexico.
Wow.
So I remember
that. That's so true, because I've never seen the Chupacabra and Putin in the same room at the same time.
That's true. It works out.
Yep.
Wait, that doesn't mean they can't even be in the same room at the same time. Though. They're just fucking reincarnated into two fucking different people. It's not like a fucking... Okay.
So that began Wernher von Braun's extreme interest in the magical arts and the dark arts. And like any young man, Wernher was also fascinated by explosions, trains, and mechanics, as that is just something that is inherent in most of humanity. Meanwhile...
I remember reading some tweet that was like, if you were a young boy child, you were either a plane kid, a train kid, or a car kid.
Or a dinosaur kid.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Dinosaur Kid is included in Plane Kid for me.
I don't...
Wait.
I'm a dinosaur plane kid.
I also disagree with the premise. I liked monsters and shit. I didn't give a fuck.
It's not science.
I mean, I was a big Beast Wars, guys. I get it. Like, you can have both, where...
If you're a boy child, you have an interest in something.
That's the difference between men and women, is that boys typically have interests where girls
Again, he's just getting my goat, y'all.
I've already got his goose.
That's the one. That's what I said.
Boy. I really... Facetious sexism and Nazism is still Nazism and sexism, huh?
Yeah, it turns out.
Boy.
Yeah, at some point,
people who voted for Donald Trump, ironically,
trolling and genuine sexism are indistinguishable from each other, and accomplish the same goal.
I want listeners to know it's just me saying bigoted things in the SpongeBob meme voice in my head.
Yeah,
but
SpongeBob meme.
There's a meme of SpongeBob bent over, and all the capitalization is alternated.
Yeah, as like
use the fucking internet.
Is
sometimes
stupid.
Yeah.
Anywho,
I just want to see you use that in court. It was SpongeBob based.
A landmark court decision today.
Sorry. Anyway, go
the
on.
People versus S. Bob of Bikini Bottom. Okay. Meanwhile, in America, the secret Canadian-American War kept both countries largely out of World War II. This was basically over the sovereignty of Wisconsin and other major areas. The U.S.-Canada Magnus Treaty was struck right before the two actually entered into the World War, in which Canada received the regenerative powers that are inherent to Niagara Falls, but U.S. got the exclusive rights to the true name of cheese at the cost of Tesla's souls, which were lost in the battle for Lake Michigan.
And of course, if you know something's true name, you have its power.
Yes. That is, of course, what led to the invention of American cheese, the truest monstrosity. Made from arcane technologies.
Wizard of Earthsea, everyone.
This all, of course, left a void in the scientific magical community of America. But we must go back to young Wernher, who at the time had begun his schooling in the Berlin Arcane Technology and Trade Institute. I see you figuring it out.
No, go on.
Okay. In which he began, as many young men in college do, to experiment with love. Specifically, its arcane potential as a fuel source.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fuel source for albums, poetry, haircuts, bad haircuts.
He had at the time been seeing a young woman of the name Nastia Soloviev, a distant relative to Grigory, his hero, but he excised his love for Nazia and, in association, Russia as a whole, using it to develop what would eventually turn prototypes for his love-powered rockets.
Okay.
As we all know, love is the most powerful force.
God fucking damn it.
And harnessing it as a fuel for massive directional rockets and bombs created a turning point in the war.
Yeah, just like harnessing fucking the Jedi dyad or whatever.
Whatever J.J. Abrams made up. Now there's life transference. It's fine.
Listen, you guys were the ones who did an episode about Nazis. I don't know what you're upset about.
No. I'm just mad about Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, me too. I'm just mad about Rise of Skywalker. Yeah. What was Finn gonna tell her? Doesn't matter. We won't resolve it.
Oh man, I kind of gave up on the Star Wars series a while ago.
I mean, you missed out on the high point for me, and
The
then a
prequels?
gut punch.
I mean, the fucking the most recent, the first of the sequels.
Yeah.
I forget what it's called.
The
Rise
Force
of Skywalker,
Awakens.
question mark?
Force Awakens.
Force Awakens was good. They had some really great actual practical effects, which are my kink. But they got very Kingdom of the Crystal Skullsy in the end.
With Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker, and I will say even the second half of Force Awakens kind of got very toy and theme park ride centric.
It is ultimately a capitalist venture to sell toys. So aimed at children. So
Well, as a boy who cried at the death of Optimus Prime, I don't know what you're talking about.
but let us
Meanwhile, back.
but let us continue with the story of Wernher Von Braun.
Meanwhile, back in the United States, Einstein had been captured, the avatar of the neutron in the human form, and Congress had met the demands of the Oppenheimer death cult in order to begin their testing of rocketry and nuclear fission. But as part of the Treaty of Versailles, the scientist Wernher von Braun was traded over to America, all as part of the secret arcane Illuminati history of the world.
For a fourth round draft pick, also.
Yes. First they got Hitler's corpse, and then the head of Himmler in a tank.
And Anthony Davis. Sorry, sports jokes. Jesus, wasn't expecting that.
And having destroyed his love of both his Russian wife and love of the motherland Russia in his experiments with the fuel source of agape and relative relationship love, Wernher was transferred over to America and bounced around from military bases until he began work in Project Paperclip, which helped develop... You see my notes? Okay.
No, go
Brian is shaking his head.
Because I was going to do the same fucking thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, go for it.
Project Paperclip, in which he contributed in a large way to the American space race, but also managed to develop a arcane familiar, which would go on to become the word processor assistant Clippy.
Okay, well.
Worth it!
I saw you grab your notebook in like a flurry at some point, and I assume that's what that was.
Oh man, yeah, there were points as well, like Project Paperclip. Never heard of that. I got a dumb joke. Yeah. And eventually, Wernher von Braun was killed by Nazi hunters, as you can see in the Amazon original series, Hunters, who are sponsoring this episode.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
Only.
Thank you, episode. Thank you, Mr. Bezos.
His soul was put into his life's work, the Soul Power rocket, which alchemized his love of science and space, sending him off to die in the Challenger 1 explosion.
Oh my god. Challenger 1.
I don't fucking...
And not 2. Electric Boogaloo.
You guys are the historians.
You could have just
I'm
said
just an
Challenger.
idiot who wants to make a secret history of the United States.
I don't know. I don't know if Challenger 1 is wrong, and I don't know if it's right. But if you had just said Challenger, I would have been like, yeah, everybody knows what the Challenger is. Your specificity was your undoing.
Yeah,
I do like the idea of possibly leaving a door open to Challenger 2. The revenge.
I'm just saying there might have been a first Challenger that went fine, and then like on 2 or 3, the explosion happened. I'm not really sure.
Also,
this time the Earth explodes.
Challenger mission to Moscow. Citizens on patrol.
You fucking moron.
Nate, thank you.
Yeah, this was more fun for me to write as sort of a John Hodgman secret history of the United States version. More information than you require novel.
Yeah. Before we move on, listeners, I just want to say, hey, you can help support this show and help us shoot up into space by pledging on our Patreon page. Jesus Christ, I never should stop doing the pre-recorded ones.
If you want more quality content, like a Clippy Familiar, please.
I'm not on Dayquil this time also, so I have no excuse.
Man, we can see the Skype window with Zach in it, and just his disappointed expression has made this entire podcast worth
It's
it.
been a long day. I woke up early to cat piss in my house, so I gotta. It's
Yeah.
I only got so much steam left in the tank. I need a few souls to get me the last few miles.
Yeah.
Gotta crack open a soul.
I will say those 12 miles, highway, so it's not even,
Yeah.
not worth it.
Mm-hmm. But no greenhouse
Might
gases,
as well just take the soul train. You can also reach us at revision.
Dare cut that out.
You can also reach us at revisionistpodcast.com and on social media. And hey, review the podcast on your podcast service of choice.
Reviewing the podcast is super helpful, especially written reviews. So write whatever. Write your puns about the SS and horse riding. I don't know.
Yeah.
Write about Soul Train. Soul means of transportation. It doesn't matter what you write. It just matters that you write it. So please do that.
Have you guys gotten any 1-star reviews?
Yes.
1.
Me too. Okay. So I have 7 reviews total. 6 of them are 5-star, and I have 1 1-star review.
I think we have
have one
few...
1-star, 1 4-star, and the rest are 5.
Yeah, I think we'd have a 2-star in there too. But yeah.
Anyway.
What the heck? Whoever's giving Denver podcasts 1-star reviews, fuck off.
Oh yeah, no, there's a 2 in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then 75 stars. So,
Ooh, look at Mr. I have
yeah, just doing some quick delegate math. So
if you spread that over the length of how long we've been doing this podcast, it's not good.
I mean, there's worse.
Obama was president when we started this podcast.
Oh man. you, in addition to Take Care of Yourself, you also have a weekly improv show?
Yeah. So next week, on March 1st, Friday, me and my team, Cool Church, will begin hosting the competitive improv tournament No DQ, in which 2 improv teams get a specific challenge to do, and whoever delivers the better performance under the conditions, like having to do musical improv, only using 1/4 of the stage, or so on and so forth, moves on to the next week. And if you win a certain number of rounds in a row, you will get money. So if you think you're funny and can get at least one other person to support you in that, you can come and try and throw down your luck. 10 p.m. Grafenberg Theater in Denver. I will also say, for Take Care of Yourself, our last 2 episodes, we had Brian on, of course, recently. And then we had Denver Killers' Ben Duncan. And after this episode comes out, we'll have one with Lauren Dufault, who is one of the better improvisers in the city.
Hell yeah. And by killers, he means good at comedy,
yes,
not murder.
I'm sorry.
Just to clarify.
Not mutually exclusive, but okay.
Not usually required. We're usually multi-skilled. Almost said multi-class, which, listeners, I think it's evident by now what kind of person I am.
Fucking nerds.
They're triple threats. They're good at improv, comedy, and murder, and one of the threats is much bigger than the other 2.
The grind, my man. You know.
God. Yeah, 10,000 hours. Zach, Little Women modern audio drama is still putting out new episodes.
Yeah, for another couple weeks. I think maybe at the time of the release of this episode, the final episode is scheduled to come out in around 10 days, 2 weeks, something like that. So it's wrapping up. But yeah, by former friend of the podcast, Shannon Camp, also my girlfriend. I have a part in the audio drama as the Lori character. So that's wrapping up soon. But you can listen to the whole backlog wherever podcasts is.
Question, is it like a Little Women reenactment kind of thing, reimagining in the modern day?
It is a reenactment in the modern day that started coming out a couple months before the movie came out. She also has bonus episodes about the backstory of the novel, about Louisa May Alcott, about various adaptations of the movie and of the book, including the newest movie, all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
it's a very, very good show.
Yeah, and it's got a full voice cast for every character. It's,
Dang.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
As for me, listeners, find me on social media for as long as I'm there still, because it's a nightmare. Apparently Brian on Twitter and Instagram.
Can I plug? I am UnfunnyOaf at UnfunnyOaf across all platforms.
Perfect. And judgment falls to Zach this episode.
It's, the real Wernher Von Braun was deeply involved in Nazis and the SS, and that's less fun than having Clippy become a real thing.
Yeah. True.
So I think I'm going to go with the alternate in this particular case and have a little... Souls are a valid means of energy now, so is love. Clippy's a real living entity that exists somewhere in the world. What happened to him? Maybe he can show up in a future alternate history.
His soul was burned up in the Challenger explosion.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot that Clippy's soul was burned up at the... Regardless.
He exists no more on Earth, Heaven, or Hell.
Okay. He was banished from existence itself. He is in none of the planes of not the astral plane, not hell, not the abyss. He's nowhere.
Fucking Ghost Rider's penance stare.
Regardless, that Clippy once walked the Earth is better than Clippy never having walked the Earth at all.
Yeah, it is better to have Clippied and lost than to have never Clippied at all.
Oh, dumb.
Anyway, Zach, thank you.
Of course, yeah.
All right.
Nate, thank you as well.
Oh, I'm not done.
Well, we gotta go. For everyone here at the Revisionists, I'm Brian Flynn.
I'm Zach Powers.
And I've been Nate Earl.
Okay, let's get into this clippy shit. Have a good time, everyone.
Bye.
Click here if you want to have a good time.
It looks like you're trying to end a podcast. How can I help?
Yeah. Bye, everybody.